Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Irrational, and welcome back to this spooky cabin in the woods deep in the heart of Chicago. I'm actually going to keep this introduction a little briefer than last week's because I'm noticing the more noise I make up here, the more noise I can hear coming from the basement, which is weird because I didn't know this place even had a basement. I can't figure out how to get down there. A lot of moaning and chains dragging. It's weird. Okay. See. Okay, yeah. You know what? So we're just gonna get this going. Today's guest is Dan Sheehan. He's a very good friend of mine, very funny comedian, hailing from Chicago. I don't know. We get in a really great conversation about societal collapse and germs and shit. And I'm not going to plug anything of Dan's because we plug it at the end of this episode. But it's all really great shit you should check out. I'm excited to release this episode. Dan just got back from Norway where he was like birthing sheep for a month, which is, in my opinion, just aggressively interesting. So I don't know. It's a shame that we recorded this before that trip because I would have loved to have gotten a conversation about that on tape, but what can you do? All right, well, with that, I am going to sit perfectly still and quiet for a while until this stops. Without further ado, Dan Sheehan. Because I don't know how to start a podcast.
Oh, yeah. For Cool Dads, we'd always just like talk and then eventually do a lead in.
So that's my general idea.
It's always tough to just be like, and we're off.
Yeah, well, because it's like you're talking to an audience, but we're sitting here in your living room.
Yeah, like the audience
alone.
like almost doesn't exist yet because they're in the future.
Yeah, and it's just embarrassing. Like when you listen to a podcast, you never think twice about somebody being like, "Oh, and today we have blah blah in the studio," but like in us sitting here doing this, I feel like that's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, like the studio's a living room and the audience is ghosts from the future.
Yeah, and we're just staring into each other's eyes. So if you're wondering whose eyes I am sitting here staring into, that's the voice of Dan Sheehan.
Hey, gang.
He is a comedian working in Chicago.
I always do that. I always say, how we doing to audiences on podcasts, and they can't say anything back.
That's fine, though. I think it makes them feel at home.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to start.
Please answer aloud intro. If you heard that.
That's going to be a good intro because I've been making the theme song at home on my computer, and it is spooky sounding.
Ooh.
I'm worried it's too intense, but
nah, man.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't really give a shit.
It's about spooky stuff, this podcast. So.
Yeah, it's a real spooky podcast. So, Dan, is there anything you wanted to say right at the top before we get into it?
About just life in general.
Sure.
Or,
how you doing? You're currently sick, which will tie into your fear later on.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a cold. I woke up just with a cold that I'm trying to ride out. Took a nap, did me some good. So yeah, I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling like I'm on the upswing. But yeah, I just got a little case of the sniffles.
That's good. I caught you at a good. Did I wake you or did you?
Oh no, I've been up for like an hour.
Okay, good. I was just making sure you didn't set an alarm for this podcast.
No, I took a little nooner, a little like 5 to 6 p.m. nap. Felt pretty nice.
Nice. That's a good nap.
Yeah, it's a good nap. I'm kind of like a night owl type. I stay up really late, so like taking a nap at that point in the day doesn't really mess me up later because I don't go to bed until like 2.
I used to be a real big night owl. Like I would have to force myself to go to sleep at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, it takes work to do that when it's like you don't necessarily have a reason to be up super early or anything.
Yeah, but I guess I am glad that I've gotten into more of like a regular swing of things, like as far as like sleep schedules go, because you're never in a sharp enough mindset to do work.
Yeah, and I've noticed during the winter, I mean, I've been trying to like crank it back and wake up earlier and earlier because during the winter there's so little sunlight. And so if I wake up at noon, I'm only getting like Now it's getting a little bit better, but at the worst parts of winter, if you wake up at noon, you're getting like 3 hours of sun
Right.
before it's just night again.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
And
it's
it's like, are you even rushing to your windows to open them up if you're waking up at noon?
Yeah, realistically, you wake up at noon, you don't get outside until probably like 1:30.
Right.
And so then you've got like 2.5 hours max of sunlight left before.
Just like the minimal amount of vitamin D
Yeah.
possible.
And then I'll just be like, oh, why do I feel so out of it? And it's like, oh, because I haven't seen the sun for 3 days.
Right. There are apparently lamps that are like
I have one of those. I have
one
a
of
lamp
those
that
the seasonal effective combatant
yeah,
lamps?
just it has like it's like a vitamin D lamp. It never did a ton for me. I just started taking vitamin D.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot. That made me
Oh,
feel it just made me feel like a little bit more energetic. Cause you're supposed to get like 3,000 units of it a day, and I probably was getting almost none of that. So I started taking it just every morning.
I hope I don't like kill the illusion. Do you feel like it's actually working? Do you feel like maybe it's placebo?
If it's a placebo, it's doing a pretty decent job. But I think it does make me feel like a little more up and alert for sure.
I feel like vitamin D pills have the potential to work.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a lot of other vitamins. Sometimes I'm like, I think a lot of this is a crock.
Well, there are some of those, where it's like you'll take a vitamin C pill and it'll be like 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. But like vitamin C, your body just pees out whatever it doesn't need. Like,
right, instantly.
Yeah, like you hit that 100% point and then the body's like, all right, rest of this can go.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting like extra vitamin C. You're just getting like my normal daily amount.
Yeah, well, and another reason why it might like even like if it is working, you're not getting the amount that you're supposed to be getting from that pill apparently because our bodies don't digest vitamin pills very well. So like you digest some of it and get you probably are feeling a boost of something, but it'd be better if you could somehow get the full amount.
Yeah, whenever I see one of those like science figured out nutrition, here's a pill with all your vitamins, I'm like, this probably doesn't work.
Right.
Like,
you want it to work so bad.
Yeah, it'd be great if it did, but I don't know. Like, I feel like as humans, we always think we have like science all figured out. We're like, okay, we finally figured out our bodies, we figured out disease, but 10, 20 years later, you find out that the active ingredient like was making people sick in some other way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm worried that I'm too big of a cynic for even like functioning pills to take effect on me.
Oh yeah.
I'm such a cynical person, and like as soon as I learn like anything, like it'll be like statistically, blue sleeping pills help you fall asleep 30 minutes sooner than red sleeping pills because of something in your mind. And once I know that, I'm like aware of it, and I'm like, nope, it'll never trick me again. And I wish I weren't such a cynical dick. I could just let things happen to me. I seek out things like that's the worst part is I seek it out. Like I seek out.
Well, you want to know
reasons for it to not work.
You want to know all the tricks of the trade, but then you learn too much.
Because like you said, if it's a placebo, it's working.
Yeah.
Like if you can mentally get into it, that's all you need.
Like the last thing I want is to go into my doctor and have him like take blood or something and be like, oh, there's no vitamin D in your bloodstream at all. Because I'd be like, oh, like
right. And then it all just goes away.
Yeah, and then it just goes back to not working at all. So I'm hoping, and I hope it does what it's supposed to. But either way, it's making me feel fine.
Yeah. I mean, you need all you can get in Chicago.
Yeah, right. It's we only get like we've had such a preposterously small amount of sunshine this winter. Even though it's been like pretty mild as far as winters go.
I feel like it's been like I feel like it's been darker.
It has been dark.
Less drastically cold.
Yeah, like it's easier to go outside without feeling like the wind is just killing your heart.
Yeah.
But like than it is like just always cloudy.
Yeah. Very cloudy winter.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what are you gonna do? Take more
vitamins.
It'll
be over soon. Yeah, I'll just double up on my vitamin D.
So, I guess that we weren't getting too far off topic with your fear, because your fear is, or it was like general contagions and pandemics.
Yeah, basically just disease.
Yeah.
In all its forms.
Which is perfect since you're sitting here ill.
Right, yeah, I'm sitting here sickly, so this could be it for me. It'll be over. That's the sort of thing from those movies that scares you. It always starts with some guy in a bus just being like, excuse me,
thinking he's got a cold.
Yeah, and then like before you know it, he's like sweating it out on like the middle of the street and he collapses. The movie's scary, man.
So I'm patient 1 to your patient 0.
Yeah, dude.
That's fantastic.
Better watch out. You'll have Kate Winslet come help you.
Hell yeah.
She was in that movie.
Man, so I didn't get a chance to watch it. I didn't watch it in 2011 because I was never too into movies that like a natural force is killing people.
Okay, see, those are kind of my jam. I love like natural disaster movies, and I love
When I watch them, they're fun to watch.
yeah.
But I don't know, I'm not into them.
Yeah, and this one, like, I didn't expect it to, like, freak me out as much as it did. I was, like, 20 years old when I saw it. And I think it's just, like, the way the movie's made. It was directed by, I'm pretty sure, like, Steven Soderbergh directed it.
Yes.
And it was so clinical. Like, it wasn't, like, past Outbreak movies I'd seen, like the movie Outbreak with, like, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
And, like, other stuff like that where it'll be like, there's this crazy love story going on and also a disease that threatens to kill them all.
Yeah.
It was like you were so far removed from these characters that, like, you didn't even really get a chance to get to know a ton of them. They were almost just, like, subjects in this, like, experiment, kind of.
Yeah.
And you were watching the disease go from the beginning to, like, its peak to, like, its eventual vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you never see it hit, like, the eradication point or anything like that. But you hope. You hope they got it figured out.
I mean, that's like developing a vaccination is more of a positive ending than most movies of this nature.
Yeah, right?
Most movies are like, and then everyone died.
Yeah, usually it's like a bloodbath at the end, but this one, not too many of the characters die. Some of them die, like, right after you meet them, but, like, the ones that you really get attached to tend to, like, exist purely to, like, show some side of how a pandemic affects, like, society as a whole. And so you're not as concerned about them dying as you are about, like, watching society break down in that movie. Like, it goes from, like, you know, everyone just being like, hey, you know, don't shake hands with people, wash your hands as much as you can, to, like, you know, people turning over military vans to get meal, you know, rations out of them.
Yeah.
And it all feels very real. It feels, like, very possible.
Yeah, that, like, so I watched the trailer, like, a handful of times, and then I read the synopsis on Wikipedia. And I also saw on Wikipedia that there are, like, several, like, scientific groups that, like, praise it for its accuracy and stuff like that. Or, like, I mean, as accurate as, like, a fictional disease can get. Like, they were like, this is pretty similar to how these procedures go down.
They researched it pretty exhaustively from what I've read. And then also, you know, like, most of the central, like, functions of the movie, like, when they start to talk about the disease, are, like, just based on scientific facts. Like, the R naught is, like, the idea of it's every, like, the R naught is the number of people that each sick person infects.
Yeah.
And so they just, like, basically explain that concept up top, and they don't go like, it's an R naught of 100. They're like, they're like realistically like, it's 2. Yeah. That's a lot of people when you think about it.
Right.
Because it's like exponential growth then at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those, like, and then those people infect 2 people. Like,
yeah,
that
and
type
so
of
it's
shit.
like 2, 4, 16, and so, like,
how do you keep track of that shit?
yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, it's like done from all over the world. And I don't know, I, like, walked out and I think it just freaked me out. Like, how quickly it happened, how, like, easy it was to happen. And then I noticed how much I was, like, touching my own face and stuff, and, like, touching common surfaces.
Which I think they mentioned that statistic about, like, your average human touches your face, like,
hundreds
so many times a day.
Hundreds
like,
of times a day, apparently.
And then it's like, and then throughout all of that, they're touching, like, door handles and all this other shit.
Yeah, just stuff, and, like, we're shaking hands with each other.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and so after that, I'd always, like most people, like, I'd had a basic fear of, like, getting sick and dying, but after that I was, like, extra scared of, like, this scenario unfolding, and all of a sudden I would be caught, like, completely unprepared for, like, a pandemic flu.
Well, like, it's funny because when you first brought this up to me, I thought your main fear was going to be just getting sick in general, which is a part of it, obviously. Like, that's definitely something you're talking about. But so in my situation, if I were in this situation, my fear, I've never been super worried about getting sick and dying. I mean, of course, I don't want that to happen. Never been super worried about that. But the thing that concerns me is the public reaction, and everyone's freaking out, and they all just turn against each other. I think
that's what got me more, was, like, that collapse. There's, like, a scene in the movie where, like, Matt Damon is kind of the central character of the movie. I think you see the most of him in comparison to the others. Matt Damon and his daughter are, like, hunkered down in his house because, like, Matt Damon's wife and his stepson both died, like, first 10 minutes of the movie. And so, like,
after she apparently cheats on him,
she cheats
I
on
saw
him
that.
with a dude.
The
and
synopsis on Wikipedia was hilarious because it was like she's flying back from Hong Kong with a layover in Chicago to sleep with an ex-lover, and I was like, wait, the layover was specifically planned to sleep with?
That's
was it like
what it seems
she was in
like.
Chicago and she's like, I might as well. Like she's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna do a quick layover for that.
That's the thing. You don't really get to know her very well before she's, having seizures and dying.
Which is insane because she is. First off, she's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
So that's like she's a fucking name. It's not like she's some faceless person they kill off right away.
Yeah, they bring in Gwyneth Paltrow, and I think it was meant to be kind of like a huge twist that like this person who could have been like an anchor for the movie dies within 12, 15 minutes of the beginning.
Which is great. I love when a movie, because you always watch these movies and you're like, okay, well, I've seen this person in 15 movies, this person in 12 movies. I've never seen this person before. Who's going to die in this scene? You know what I mean? But instead, it's Gwyneth Paltrow dies right away. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's she gets taken out right away. And so there's a scene where Matt Damon and his daughter, it's been a while, and like society is like collapsed in a pretty big way. Like everyone's staying in their homes to avoid getting sick.
Yeah.
And you just hear like a bunch of calamity going on right next door. And then you just like see like a flash and like a bang, like a gun going off or something. And then a bunch of people run out of his neighbor's house. And you just don't really know who those people were. But like, you're like, that neighbor's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, and he goes into the neighbor's house and like they allude to the fact that he sees his dead neighbor. And then he just goes in the neighbor's garage and takes his neighbor's gun.
Yeah.
And like just goes and hunkers in his house. It's just like that idea of like people getting so scared they start like looting each other and stuff, even though you might not have anything they want. Like
Right.
you're still
And then
a target.
it's like to that point where he's not. I'm sure he was pretty sad about it, but he was like, well, I gotta take his gun.
Yeah, exactly. Like just kind of that level of like, well, I gotta at least ride this out.
Right.
Like,
This is the world we live in now.
in a way, it was like very much like what those shows, like you see your Walking Deads and stuff that are all about how society reacts to a collapse.
Yeah.
And like they're so drastically fictionalized because part of that collapse is zombies shambling around
Right.
everywhere. But this one was very real. It was like, oh no, this is just the flu, and this is just a flu like the Spanish flu or any other epidemic before it.
Right.
That even if it kills 1% of the population, has a huge and crazy effect on society and infrastructure.
Right.
So yeah, I saw the movie. It freaked me out. And then my next move was like to start looking up stuff online about like how to be better prepared in those scenarios. Just like,
well, see, that's when you said that you went out and bought a survival pack. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, so Dan was scared of both. Like it wasn't because like for me, like I said, I was only afraid of. In general, I'm only afraid of like the population freaking out and all turning and killing each other. I just assumed that you were mostly just afraid of like germs, so like you became like a germaphobe. I didn't realize you also were
Yeah.
afraid of the public reaction and like needing to go buy a survival pack.
yeah, it's like, and here's the thing: is I've never been too much of a germaphobe. Like I don't have problems with like shaking hands. I don't like sharing drinks with people, but I think that's relatively common. Like in general, I think for me, like what spooked me the most was just like people just going nuts for like like mass hysteria. That idea, it's like if you just followed what they told you to do, everyone would be fine. But then some guy gets the idea like, well, no, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna work out better for me.
Yeah.
And it just fucks the whole thing up.
Right.
And so it's like, then I just started like casually looking stuff up. I was like, oh, I wonder like if there's some list of like groceries you can have or something like that. And like you find all the basic stuff, like have 3 days of food and water in a bag, so that if you need to get in the car and go someplace, you can.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll get that. I bought that. I was at an age where I had a lot of disposable income because I was working in school, and so I was like getting help from home for
Sure.
school, and then I also had money from my job.
Yeah.
And like you'd be shocked how cheap some of this stuff is on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I just took an old backpack and I threw that stuff in there. I was like, okay, we're good. But we were not good. I like kept looking, and it became like this weird like gnawing fear in the back of my head. I was like, well, what else can I get? What else can I do? And then I ended up getting like masks. I was like, masks are a logical step. If
Sure.
people are sick, you can put on some masks or whatever. And here's the thing: is I went to college in relatively rural Missouri. If there was a big outbreak, we would not be the first to get hit. We would not have a super high risk of transmission. Like everyone could kind of probably be fine.
Sure.
But I just in my head I was like, nah, I'm gonna be ready for this one.
Yeah.
And so I get the masks, and that's fine. I'm like, cool, we're done. And then I just keep looking at stuff, and I keep finding stuff. And then eventually it goes from just regular masks to, like, those, like, big ones with the spooky things in them. I got one of those.
It's like a full-on gas mask.
Yeah, and at a point, it then became this weird bit among me and my friends where they were like, well, what's new in your bag this week? And so I was, like, kind of doing it, and I was like, I'm egging them on, but then there was a part of me that's like, I'm also preparing myself.
Right, you're laughing with them, but you're also like, well, you're going to die first.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a certain point where I looked at it, I was like, I don't think this is a bit anymore. I think I've just made a very exhaustive survival bag. And, like, I think it was a crowbar came in, and I was just like, this is too much.
Yeah.
This is too much. My friend had kind of, like, egged me into buying this crowbar. He's like, you never know what you'll need it for. I was like, you're right. I'll never know what I need it for.
Yeah.
I got it, and I, like, held it in my hand, and I was like, I'm not some wasteland warrior. Like, this has gone so much further than just, you know, not wanting to get the flu. Like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna use this for anything other than, like, opening up a box of something. Like,
Yeah, you went from planning how to stay alive and how to keep clean to how can I kill a man efficiently?
yeah, like, now I'm the marauder. Like, I'm the guy running from house to house.
You're in the movie, you're the bad guy.
Yeah, I had become the bad guy.
You're the guy who there's a gunshot and you scamper out of the house.
Exactly. I was no longer
in.
Matt Damon protecting my daughter.
Right.
I was for sure the bad dude.
Well, what's the difference? You just got to get yourself a daughter.
Yeah, I just got to get a daughter. That's really that's my next step.
And then you're the good guy again.
Yeah, and so I had that.
But then you have to buy two of every one
yeah,
more
that's
of everything.
a whole
you've already
nother
bought.
bag,
God,
which is a whole mess.
she's not worth it.
Yeah, right. It's
This
I really should
fictional
just
daughter.
run solo. I'm gonna leave my fictional daughter behind.
It seems so. In that situation, it always feels like you want to team up. But if you're watching those movies, solo's always like the way to go.
Yeah, especially if you're like solo and smart, because like.
Yeah.
Whenever you see those groups, that's why those movies I can sometimes have a hard time watching them because like there's always one dumb guy who everyone listens to way too much.
Yep.
Who's like there's a leader who's got a pretty decent idea and he's
Mhm.
like, okay, we're gonna go this way and we're all gonna go quietly, and the dumb guy's like, well, how about we shoot guns in front of the stronghold,
Yeah.
the stronghold full of whatever we're fighting against.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's a really dumb idea. We're not going to do that. He's like, well, I'm going to point my gun at you, and now we're going to do my thing. And
Right.
everyone's like, well, he's got a point, man. Like, we should listen to this guy. And then half the group dies, and everyone's like, how did this happen?
And then they blame the leader.
Yeah, they blame the leader. It's like, you're not protecting us, right? It's like, well, if he really was protecting you, he would just kill the loud guy. Like,
Yeah, but if he killed the loud guy, then everyone turns against the
Yeah,
leader because he's a
exactly.
crazy. And it's like, okay, well, we live in a post-apocalyptic world. You got to go crazy and kill each other.
I've realized
like,
that in a post-apocalyptic world, I think I would just jump into the sea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I would just be like, nope, this is a mess.
That's like at like a Comic-Con panel, they like somebody asked during a Q&A Robert Kirkman what his plan is for the zombie apocalypse, because he's writing The Walking Dead, like he's got to be an expert and stuff, and he's just like, oh, I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
I'd kill my wife and kid, and then I'd kill myself. He's like,
If
why would
there's
I want
anyone,
to live in that world?
Yeah, if there's anyone who knows, it's him, because like he's written all these terribly sad stories about
Right.
people in like a post-apocalyptic world. Like if anyone would want to kill themselves at the start, it's probably that guy. you
Right,
know?
he's just like writing drama after drama that just feel god awful to write, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
he's
like,
filled,
well,
you know,
I
how
don't wanna
many
be this.
issues and how many seasons with people dying.
Yeah.
Like he's probably just like hard pass. Like there's not a chance he would want that.
Exactly. That's actually why I was turned on to those comic books, was the story, and that's why a lot of people were turned off by the TV show, because it was less about zombies and more about social interaction in that world.
Yeah, that's
Which
actually
is
why
an
I got into the
interesting
comics
concept.
too. Yeah, I am fascinated with like post-society interaction.
Yeah.
I think like because and for me it's not about like the big explosive aspect of like post-apocalyptic worlds. It's about like the idea of we all like remember what civilization was, but then we're like trying to rebuild it. It's almost like someone showing you a picture and being like, all right, now draw the picture.
Right.
And it's like watching people try to do that communally is
Right.
very interesting to me, because there are just so many different like mindsets that it takes.
Yeah. And like anyone, you in this society, you feel like you've got like a friend that you agree wholeheartedly politically in every aspect. In that society, you'd find your differences, and then it's like, okay, well, how do we build society without like there's not anything set in place to enforce any of these laws and shit.
Exactly. Well, I think what happens is like when you go back to then like scratch there. Even like in something more like real, like Contagion, it's like all of a sudden mindsets that we think of as kind of outdated and unnecessary, then you like need them again. Like when society's collapsing, like having a big strong dude who's willing to punch people, like that's more useful than it is in like I going out on a Friday night, I don't want to be going out with any dude who's like looking for a fight,
right,
who's gonna have any chance at all of getting into a fight.
Yeah.
But if, like, I'm scavenging for beans in an empty grocery store, like, yeah, having a dude with a baseball bat would probably be useful because I don't want to swing a baseball bat at anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there's a big guy named Brian who will do it, then, yeah, like...
Get yourself a Brian.
Yeah, you got to get a Brian.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, yeah, it's a mindset that just when you think of, like, your day-to-day life right now, you have no interest in. But then, like, it's funny because then you would have to reconcile it. It's like, oh, like, as... like a quiet, soft-spoken dude, I don't have a ton of use then in that world either. Like, no one needs, like, a goofy, fun guy who knows how to write. Like, I'm not useful in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, we're not useful until society rebuilds itself.
Exactly,
Nobody needs a comedian.
Yeah, no one's like, but where's the art? Like,
we're sitting there trying to, like, inject humor into, like, the saddest situations, and people are just annoyed. Like, no, I'm starving to death.
Yeah.
Please stop with your
My
fucking
wife
jokes.
exploded. Like,
you could, I mean, God damn it.
I would be so insufferable in a post-apocalypse. I feel like everyone would just immediately be like, okay, he's got a pretty cool bag of gear. Let's murder him and take that.
Sure.
And then we're done. Most of it at this point has largely gone away. I was like, since leaving college, I still have a bag that has like, I really like doing like hiking stuff when I can and like camping stuff. I haven't camped in like 3 years or so, but like the bag now is mostly like old camping stuff with a little bit of like the survival stuff in it now.
Yeah.
So it couldn't like masquerade like, oh no, I was never into that.
Sure.
But
I just like to camp.
I know when I look at it. I'm like, you had a weird phase.
Absolutely. But it's also, I mean, so like you clearly went pretty serious with it and like really, really wanted that. Like, and it's not so much that you wanted it, but you wanted to be prepared.
Yeah. I'm a very neurotic person. When like a fear gets into my head, I like basically just poke and claw at it until I've like looked at it from every angle.
Sure.
And then I just focus on it. Like it's like a pressure cooker, I feel like sometimes, where it's like I am just obsessed with this fear until I like feel like I'm completely safe from it.
Sure. Well, I don't know. That's like in some ways that's a good way to be, but I'm sure you externally I can see like, oh, that's an awesome thing. Like you figure out how to like overcome it. But for you, you're probably like, no, it's a nightmare. This fear was irrational. I didn't have to think about it this long in the first place.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's useful because like in that weird span, I did learn a bunch of like weird survival-y stuff because I found this show that had like an episode about surviving a pandemic. So I watched it.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. What are the rest of the episodes about? Now I just have all this weird incidental knowledge because they had so many. They only did one season. It's hilarious also if you ever just want to watch it.
What's
like,
it called?
It's called Surviving Disaster. And like I'm not at all like a macho bro type, but it's for sure that's who it was being geared towards.
Sure.
So it's basically just like this ex-special ops dude like yelling at you.
Yeah.
He's like, my name is Cade Courtley, and I'm here to tell you how to do this, this, and this. And I was like watching, I was like, this is really interesting. But like he would just scream at this unseen audience the whole time. And then like during the pandemic episode, like they would always have some guy who fucks up so that they could show you what to do if somebody fucks up.
Sure.
And so this guy was like helping his neighbor like move something, and he walks outside the house. He's like, you just doomed the whole group to like this like clear extra actor, and this guy's just like, meh. And so they end up having to build him a sick room because of course shaking hands with his neighbor got him sick, and of course he dies. And so they teach you how to bury his body, and it was like, because none of the
that's horrifying. Like a professional government like issued quarantine is probably one of the scariest possible situations.
My God, yeah.
But a bunch of amateur idiots who watched I don't know, pseudo documentary style show trying to quarantine you and only you, that's a nightmare.
Well, because you look at shows like that Doomsday Preppers and you look at the sort of people that are actually like trying to act like they know what's going to happen if anything happens, and they're all idiots. They're all big idiots who just like buying guns. And that's kind of like what it comes down to.
Because like I'm sure you kind of felt this with a lot of your survival pack, but everyone has that feeling where You put a baseball bat next to your bed just in case. You
Yeah.
don't want to use it, but just in case. But there's that tiny part of you that's like, man, I hope I one day get to use it. Like, you never want that. You never want someone to come into your home. But
I think that's what it was for me that kind of like started to dispel it. Was like, for me, it had all been like preventative stuff. It had been like passive objects. It had been like food, water, bandages or something like that, like masks. And then when it became like a crowbar, I was like, oh, this is the first thing where it's like it has a use that's not nice.
Right.
It's not like helping anything.
Because a hammer, you can be like, sure, you could kill a man with a hammer, but you're like,
You could
give
do
it a
stuff
fucking
with it.
hammer.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna, and you could do that exact same shit with a crowbar, but a crowbar is so menacing.
Yeah,
crowbar
and like
is
when
definitely a tool that is like, when it's sold, part of the function is like the idea that it could kill a man.
Yeah, I bought it and I was just like, this looks like just a murder thing. Because like when me and my friends were looking at it, and like I said, there used to be these things where we'd sit on the internet and kind of egg each other on like about various things, and we'd end up getting something. And so it was like we were looking at it, we were like talking about all the ways it could be useful, like getting doors open and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like I get it, I was like, no, this is just for sure a murder thing.
Yeah.
Like this, no one's gonna use this for anything but murder.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been, I have no idea actually where it ended up. It like ruined the fun of it for me, because there's always a fun part where you were just like oh, like I'm scared of this, but then also like each thing I
You're
get
getting
makes
prepared.
me feel like a little bit more like I could figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas then this makes me realize like, oh no, I would not be equipped for that world at all, because
Yeah.
the last thing I would want to do is ever have any use for this.
But that sets you apart from the doomsday prepper guys.
Yeah, and I think
because
that's what you realize too, is that if it ever happens, there's just gonna be tons of those dudes running around, trigger happy,
and
like,
they are ready to go. They are gonna survive because they've
yeah,
prepped.
they're just gonna murder everybody,
And
there's
they just
gonna be
can't
murder
wait.
boys
They-
everywhere.
When you have that little instance of like you put that baseball bat and you're like, I kind of want to use this, but of course I don't want to fucking use this. Those guys are like, I cannot wait to use this, and they are so excited for the world to fall apart.
And they're all the ones too that think that like they legitimately think like the world's gonna end, it's gonna be zombies. They're like, one day it's gonna be fucking zombies, man.
Yeah.
And like they just don't understand anything. They just know they basically just want a chance to be cowboys. And
Oh, yeah.
so it's like it's this very bizarre culture, and I think seeing that also made me go like, ooh, gotta distance myself from any of this. Like,
Yeah.
well, because there's like a difference between like, I still advocate the idea of like having a bag that just has like some food and water in it.
It's
You
a
never
great
know.
idea,
Especially in a big city,
especially in a big city. But most importantly, to have in the trunk of your car.
Yeah.
It's a great. I have I could change a tire based on what's in the trunk of my car. Other than that, I have nothing. Like I can't get, and that's stupid.
I think also a stem. My dad always kept a bag in the back of his car with like a change of clothes, a blanket, and like stuff where
great
if you
idea.
needed to like be in your car for an extended period of time. And he was always
it's
like,
so
you
easy
got to
to
keep
do.
one of those in your car.
It's so easy to do.
Yeah, it's so easy. And I think just like in a city, it makes sense to have something like that, because you never know. It's like you look back at like, stuff like 9/11 where it would have happened, and you probably would have wanted to maybe stay in, the house for. No one had any idea what was going on. Like crazy things can happen in large metropolitan areas, and it's always nice to know, like, okay, like I've got water. Like,
Yeah.
if the power gets shut off, if the water gets shut off, like I'm set until we can figure out what's going on. Like even for things not as alarmist as like a terrorist attack, but even like like they just had that big power outage. Like I think it was a little over a year ago, where like a good chunk of California had like lost power briefly.
Really?
Yeah, just like for a little while. It was
So
like
out
some
of
sort of
loop.
grid thing. And it was just like, I don't know, it's just one of those things that happens when you're a huge country and electricity is working everywhere. Like every now and then something's gonna, hit a snag in the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a machine. And
Yeah.
It's, like, first off, machines are going to fuck up, but especially when it's like you also add the element of potential human error.
Yeah, exactly. And so
It's
it's like, I don't
going
know.
to happen.
I definitely think that sort of thing is useful, but yeah. Then beyond that, if I need a crowbar, I'd rather be dead. Like,
Yeah.
if I need like the real gear, like then I'm not interested. Like,
Yeah. That'd be fun for. It wouldn't even be fun for the week because you would know that it's everlasting.
Well, I
But
think that's
say
why
you could fall
everyone-
into that for 1 week. That'd be like a fun, like, oh, this stupid shit. You know,
it's kind of like the reason
like
people
playing a video game.
like play video games or like play paintball. It's like it's fun to pretend that you're in like a high adrenaline situation.
Yeah.
But like the realities of it, I think would be too much. And I think that's why people cling to the zombie thing so much, because it's like an endless horde of things you can like fight and murder and
that
like
are humanoid.
Yeah,
but you don't have to feel guilt.
Yeah, there's no guilt in it. It's like they're
Yeah.
already dead, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing them a favor.
Exactly.
Whereas it's like in a real situation, it's like, oh, what do you do if like a dude with the flu wants to steal some of your stuff? You're just gonna feel real sad.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be like, it's a sick guy and he needs water, but I can't let him in or touch him because then I could become a sick guy.
Yeah.
And then like some of the sick guys are gonna become dead guys, and you don't want to be the dead guy. And
Yeah.
like,
The like I said, my fear in those scenarios is the human interaction aspect of it all, just like how everyone turns against each other. Like healthy people just start killing one another for goods.
yeah, exactly, because like everyone starts to doubt each other.
Oh yeah, real quick. And then especially with, so like they kind of have it with zombie movies where you've got that one guy who got bit and he's hiding it.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly he turns into a zombie.
And I feel like that's so much more real with like a flu situation.
It's way more real with the
where
flu.
someone's like, "Oh, I've got a cough," but like it's just a cough.
Yeah.
And before you know it,
also it's real because that person might have no idea. You know you got bit by a zombie. You know you're hiding it. You know that like it's like this person's untrustworthy. Someone gets sick and they're now like contagious. They don't even know. They might not even know. And then it's like there is a much bigger guilt factor involved because like they didn't try to hide anything from you.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's how you see it like spread so fast. It's like in like a big area like Chicago, like someone takes the L and they're sick. Like that's how flu season happens every year. It's like, I mean, that's why they encourage people to take flu shots because like if you're old or a baby, like it can actually kill you.
Yeah. And I mean, you're sick right now.
Yeah, I'm sick right now.
And I was like, no, I still want to record this podcast. So I drove over to your apartment to sit with you.
Just to get infected.
Just to be ill.
Just to be patient one.
I did. Like as of 2 days ago, maybe even yesterday. No, I don't know. I just got over a flu. So I'm hoping, or a cold. I'm hoping it's the same like strain or whatever.
Yeah, with comics, it's always, I feel like,
up.
one or two things that's floating around.
Oh, yeah. We all just, it's like there's that one open mic where somebody kind of coughs and then like suddenly every comic is sick.
Yeah, then it's just over. Either that or it's my my mandatory yearly sinus infection. I get a sinus infection like every year.
Oh, God.
And those aren't contagious, so.
I always get like head colds.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
always
rarely
the head
feel it
for
in my
me.
body. I just like 2 illnesses ago, I finally had like a full body, like real cold. And I was like, I'm going to die. Like I hadn't experienced that since I was like a child.
Yeah, like where your limbs are achy and you're nauseous. Yeah, I don't get that very much at all. For me, it's always like very stuffed up head and face.
Yeah.
Like
Coughing.
usually a sore throat. Like it'll start with a sore throat, then go to a cough, and then end like with like
just
a
like
runny
the whole
nose.
top 50% of your head feels like a nightmare. Like sinuses, eyes, headache. Like it's just
and then one day it just
even.
drains out, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like,
God, I always
gross.
wish that it like I know this is like I just wish that it could disappear like that, you know? Because like I would add 2 days of illness if it could just disappear in like the blink of an eye. Because you know how when you're sick and you're like, I just wish I was well, I could get so much stuff done. And then you slowly ease out of being sick over the course of a few days, and then you're not getting all that shit done. Imagine the inspiration you would feel if you suddenly weren't sick.
Yeah, if you just like turned around, you're like, oh my God. I kind of had that
like,
once.
I got to clean my entire fucking apartment right now. Like, I feel great.
When I was right before I went to college, I got my wisdom teeth out. And so like after you have something like that done, your immune system is like super compromised.
Yeah.
And so all my friends growing up used to hang out at my house. So they didn't stop just because I was like laid up in bed. They were still all coming over and wandering around.
Sure.
And one of them had like a secret girlfriend he wasn't telling his parents about. So the only place they would like meet up would be at my house.
Yeah.
And so he comes over and he has the flu.
Secret girlfriends were always so fucking annoying.
Right?
Because they were
Yeah.
never yours.
Yeah,
Like,
they were
I
never my
had a
secret girlfriend.
I just had to cover for my friend's
Yeah, it was like
girlfriend.
somebody else's problem. My parents didn't give a shit. They were
Such
like,
a
yeah,
pain in
oh,
the
whatever.
ass.
Can we meet her? But it's
Yeah,
like, yeah.
exactly.
He had,
Anyway,
yeah,
sorry. So all your friends are coming over.
So all my friends are coming over. One of them comes over to see this secret girlfriend. He like just got over the flu.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in like the couch just like dying, like coming in and out of like pain meds. It's been like a day.
Yeah.
And so he and this girl are around my house. Like my friends are all just sitting there like watching TV, playing video games while I'm just sitting on the couch. And like at this point I'm like trying to hint that like I would prefer if no one were there because I'm just so wonked out on pain meds. And like So eventually, like,
you can't even nap because your friends are playing video games.
Yeah,
in the same
exactly.
room.
Like, they're all just using my TV.
And they're like, yeah, we're here for you, bud. And like their backs are turned to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, the next day, I wake up and I am sweating everywhere. I'm super hot. And I'm just like, this is like for sure like a very real flu. And so like
I'm sorry. So you got a flu right after getting your wisdom teeth?
After getting my wisdom teeth out.
Oh, I thought this was just a wisdom teeth.
No. And so like my face hurts and is bleeding like it does after your wisdom teeth come out.
Yeah.
And so then I also have a fever and I'm always cold. Yeah. And then what happened was it was like right before I went off to college and I had just started doing stand up. And so I had like my last big stand up show before I was going away to college that night. And so I was like so mad at my friend for getting me sick.
Sure.
And so I go to sleep in my bed like right during the day. I'm just feeling gross. So I decide to take a nap. And I wake up and I have just sweat everything out. But I feel like amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like my body basically just rejected the last of it. And all of a sudden like I'm just back in it. And so I was just like, hell yeah. And like, so I was like a little tender, like for sure, but I was like healthy and ready to roll and I was like able to do the show and everything.
That's so fucking great.
But yeah, it was like that I think was the most like awesome I felt post sickness. Usually it's like that slow crawl out and then you're just like, oh, well now I'm well enough to get back to my responsibilities, I guess. Like
the closest I experienced with that is, and I barely ever experience it anymore because I'm getting older, but is hangovers. Like I used to just get that you get me hungover for like all day, and then like there's just that one 35-minute period where you go from like brutally hungover to zero hangover.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, oh shit, like I'm alive all of a sudden.
Yeah, those end very abruptly. I've noticed. It's like for me, what'll happen is I'll wake up and I'll feel fine, and then if I eat, that's the test.
Yeah,
because then if I eat, either it'll be like, just kidding, your hangover has yet to even begin.
Yeah.
Or it'll be like, no, you're right, you dodged this one. Enjoy some food. Like,
yeah.
And so, like, it depends. But there's no feeling better than realizing, like, oh, my God, I finally wrote it out. Like when the headache stops a little bit or something like that. And
it just happens. It used to. Like, now I ease out of it and I feel good by, like, midnight the next day. But I used to just, like, within, like, 30 minutes, I would go from feeling like garbage to $1 million. I miss that so much. I never minded hangovers because I knew they would end.
They're like a 2-day affair for me now.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm 25, and so it's like the first day after I drink a whole lot, I just feel terrible. I just feel terrible all day long.
Yeah.
And then, like, I didn't sleep well at all the night before usually. Like, even if I slept a really long time, it's always garbage sleep.
Well, that's one of the main reasons you have a hangover is because you're not getting real sleep.
Yeah.
It's like obviously the alcohol is poisoning your body, so you feel shitty about that. But I think the biggest factor is the lack of sleep. So that's why, like, if you get 2 hours of sleep, sometimes you wake up feeling hungover, even though you didn't.
Yeah.
Or like I just took NyQuil the other day, and I got 9 hours of sleep. And I couldn't wake up for work. Like
NyQuil messes me up really bad. It makes me feel because NyQuil is basically like acetaminophen, the active ingredient in it, you're not supposed to take with any sort of alcohol because it basically does the same thing that like a few drinks does to you. And so like when you wake up, that's why you always feel kind of groggy and hungover. And
you're getting zero, like you're barely hitting REM sleep.
Yeah.
Because like, or
melatonin's my jam.
I always call it REM sleep, even though it's, I guess it's a acronym, so you're supposed to pronounce it REM, but I always call it REM sleep, like the fucking band. I don't know.
That's the sort of sleep where you just hear really smooth 80s tunes.
Just nonstop.
Yeah.
That's real soothing.
Yeah, melatonin's my go-to if I need any sort of like help sleeping.
Melatonin, I think I was taking it wrong. I would take it before bed. That's when you're supposed to take it, right?
Yeah, that's when I take it.
Like, are you supposed to take it like right before bed? I don't know.
Usually
I would
take
wake
it
up
like
groggy.
I take it like half an hour before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And then, usually it's like I start to notice like my limbs start to feel heavy, start to get all like the classic sleepiness symptoms. And so I'm like, cool, it's about
See, I'm thinking maybe I should start taking it again, but take it when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. Because me and my girlfriend will toss on like Netflix before bed. That's when we watch TV together. Mm-hmm. That's probably when I should take it so then I'm sleepy by the time we're done. Because like I'll take it, I used to take it when we'd get in bed, and then I'd wake up feeling groggy. And I was like, isn't this supposed to make me feel great?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sometimes get groggy from, but I also take like the lowest possible dose you can. Like I just take like one of the little pills. Mm-hmm. So I think like, because the first time I did it, I took 2, and it knocked me out. I was just like, all right, I went to sleep super quickly,
Yeah.
super long, super groggy when I woke up. Just because, like, I don't know why my instinct with pills, like, oh, take 2. Like, I just assume everything is ibuprofen where I'm supposed to take 2.
Oh, same. Yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, like, I took it, and I remember I got them from Tyler, and he's just like, I'm just like, hey, should I take 2? He's like, no, that'll knock you out. And I had, like, just taken 2. I was like, all right,
well, great.
Time to see what this feels like.
Oh, man. How do we get here?
We were talking about sleep from, how did we get here?
We don't have to figure it out. The audience knows.
Yeah. They'll follow the thread.
So let's get back. So you had, so you were buying all this stuff. You said the crowbar was your tipping point where you realized things were getting probably too serious in a negative way now.
Yeah. Well,
how did you get out of all this? Like,
I think I just stopped. It was like I realized I was like, this is a weird bit that is gonna start being less of a bit.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, this is a waste of my money. Like, I don't know. Like, I realized that I was letting the fear of this thing, like, mix with this fiction of this fear. Like,
yeah.
You know, because there's so much, like, fiction around, especially now. Like, every piece of, like, fiction seems to be based around, like, the idea of the collapse of society or the collapse of civilization.
Yeah.
And so there's, like, so many things to make you think, like, oh, my God, like, it could be so crazy. And, like, then you, like, you know, you read about, like, global warming, and you read about, like, the idea of, like, water becoming a scarce resource and stuff. And so it's like there's all this stuff to make you think, like, oh, man, the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
But then if you actually, like, look at your day-to-day life and the world, you're like, things are fine. Like,
yeah,
things aren't that bad. Things aren't that scary. I don't know. Yeah, it was a very bizarre portion of my life because it was, like, about 6 months. I was, like, 20. And now I, like, can't even, like, identify with the part of myself that would have done that.
Really?
Yeah, like, I can't even imagine the mindset of, like, going online and buying all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just because I'm, like, I think it's also I'm an adult now who works in exchange for my money.
Yeah,
so
you need to earn that money. So now you're like, I don't want to fucking buy it.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy, like, a mask
crowbar
or, yeah,
and
like
a
a
gas
crowbar
mask.
that my friend thought would be funny.
Yeah.
Like,
but at the same time, those things, I would never use them. And I would never hope that I would get in a situation to use them.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to own a gas mask.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
I want that? But
I ended up actually using the gas mask one day because my senior year of college, I still had the bag, and I was living with one of the same guys who I used to kind of do the bit with.
Yeah.
Where it was like we would go online and we'd look at all this goofy survival stuff and end up buying something. And they were sanding the outside of our building. Like,
Yeah.
they were redoing the outside to make it real, like, nice because, like, we were about to move out and they were going to, like, remodel everything. So they sanded the outside of the building, and something must have been open, some sort of, like, entrance to the outside. And so all of a sudden the inside of our apartment is just dust. Just
Really?
nothing but, like, stone particulate dust.
Great.
So, like, yeah, the super bad for you type of stuff that, like, my friend was just kind of, like, sitting in it for a little while, and, like, he felt like he was, like, coughing it up for days.
Yeah.
It just, like, felt like he felt gross. And so I just came out of my room, and I was like, remember this? And I had the thing, like, plugged in, and it had, like, these 2 cartridges in it. And so I was just, like, walking around the house, like, doing stuff while all this
Like,
dust
you all
was
laughed
around.
at me.
Yeah, like, I finally got some use out of it. That's the only time it ever, I think, got any use. I've used the first aid kit a bunch of times, but,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone should have a first aid kit anyway, because
Yeah.
drunk people
Absolutely.
are idiots and often cut themselves open. So
Yeah.
never hurts to have some bandages lying around.
So it just slowly,
I think I just matured, honestly. I think I was like I was barely out of my teen years, and
Yeah.
I was like, it was the exact sort of thing that in high school I probably would have gotten even way more into, because it was like that exact sort of, like, goofy, nerdy kid
yeah.
who's secretly actually kind of afraid of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
You're afraid of it, but at the same time, you're, like, excited for it to happen because it's like...
Yeah. And I think as I was an adult, I was like, oh, no, like, there are real problems. Like, this isn't a real problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, the bag, whatever's left of it is still in my closet someplace.
I'm
I
sure...
still have that backpack.
I feel like this would be the situation where, like, the absurd things that you'd never need, like a crowbar...
Let me see if it's
fall
in
out of
there.
rotation.
Let me take a look.
Yeah, let's do this.
I think
That would be... I'm excited for this, to
I think it's in there.
open up this bag.
I never get rid of anything.
All right, Dan has found the bag. It is your standard
is.
gray JanSport backpack.
It is heavier than I remember.
There's no machetes or anything hanging off the sides.
Yeah, it was pretty low key as far as backs go. All right. Let's take a look here.
Should we set up the mic stand so your hands free?
Oh yeah, sure. If you
All
want to
right.
grab that. That's why everyone should have a mic stand in their house.
It is very convenient just to have a mic stand sitting there for this segment.
So we have Datrex emergency ration. This is 3 days of food.
That's food.
This is food. It's a bar of food.
It is a vacuum sealed cube.
You're supposed to eat one every 6 hours. It has 200 calories, and I'm willing to bet it tastes like hot garbage.
Yeah.
I would bet my life that this tastes terrible. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, these expire in August of 2016.
And you
So-
bought these in 2011?
2011, it says. Yes, I would have been 20 years old.
5 years isn't bad, I guess. That's
Yeah,
a
it's
pretty good.
Pretty decent. And then this is a bunch of water, emergency drinking water.
That's water? What?
Yeah, just water in tiny
Okay, so Dan just
packets.
pulled a bubble wrapped, a whole bunch of packets that look like, I don't know, hand sanitizing packets in a bubble wrapped sack.
And then
There's just little baggies of water. That's
two
pretty nifty.
more
actually.
of these. It's I
More
think I
Datrex.
got 2 of each. I think they came in packs.
Sure.
A flashlight. So far, I think what's left of it is pretty useful. I'm
This
hoping
is all
I can
very reasonable stuff. Aside from the fact that this expires,
pretty soon. I was really betting on something going wrong.
I wasn't I mean, 5 years isn't bad. I would hope for more than that.
This starts to breach the territory into maybe being a little
Unreasonable?
alarmist.
I'm excited.
Water purification drops. You can drop it into water, like even if it's like from a lake or from a gross puddle, and it makes it safe to drink.
That is interesting,
So-
and I wouldn't trust it.
It's basically it's like for camping and hiking and stuff. I've never felt the need to use it because I feel like if you're camping, just bring enough water.
I learned how to purify water from the movie All Is Lost.
Ooh,
Uh,
I've never seen that one.
It's what's his name? Robert Redford? That might be his name. I don't know. He is trapped on a sailboat in the middle of the ocean. And he's just stranded on this boat, and it's an 1.5-hour movie with almost no dialogue. It's just him alone on a boat for like 90 minutes, and it is
Dang.
great. It's such a fucking good movie. And you
Okay.
can learn survival tips. He never explains anything he's doing because he's not talking to himself. He just knows how to do this shit. But if you watch carefully, you can start to understand what he's doing. But it'll be like a 15-minute scene where you're just like, what is this contraption he's building? And then at the end, you're like, oh, I understand how that works.
You have to like keep up with him.
Yeah. So I learned how to purify water if I have like saran wrap and a can.
I have Tinder Quick Fire tabs. So far, this is pretty much just a bag for like any sort of camping now.
Yeah, this does seem like
I was really hoping there'd be something more
roughing it
saucy
camping.
in it, but
What are they
2
all
things of
over?
Kleenex. I'm actually going to use one of those right now because I'm sick.
Oh, so these are just water resistant, so they actually can light without.
Yeah, it's like if you wanted to start a fire and like all the wood around you was wet. Some Band-Aids.
So far, it's pretty reasonable.
So far, yeah, most of this
That's good.
just I think has cast a light on
Extra
how long
socks.
it's been since I've camped. Tiny little first aid kit. Magnesium fire starter. This one is pretty unnecessary. You scrape magnesium
Oh,
off
it creates sparks.
well, one side just scrapes like shredded magnesium, which like flares up a lot,
Oh,
and then the
you
other
scrape that into a
side-
pile, and
yeah,
then you
and the other
spark it.
side lights it, and so then it lights up
Gotcha.
a little fire. This is probably unnecessary, especially with those little tablets.
Sure.
And then ibuprofen in case you get hungover in the apocalypse. One pair of
that
socks.
would be my downfall. Is
Apocalyptic hangovers.
just if I could get my hands on any type of alcohol, I would probably get really drunk and just you can't encourage dehydration in the apocalypse,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
fucking would.
I would
It's-
definitely, if the apocalypse happened, I would definitely drink any chance I got.
Yeah.
Just because, come on, most people you know are dead.
Yeah.
This
Gotta
is
do
a thermal rescue blanket. I've never camped in a place where this would even
Oh, hell
be
yeah.
a little necessary.
This is this whole so This is when Sonia and I are watching Better Call Saul. And
Oh, yeah.
do you know? Have you seen it?
Yeah.
One of the characters wears one of these throughout the whole time. I'm like, where the fuck do you even get one of those?
It's my old survival backpack.
That's
where
where
you
he
get one of
gets
those.
it. Thermal
This is
rescue
a
blanket.
roll of paracord with a little compass in it.
I've got one of those.
Yeah, these are actually supposedly pretty useful. I've never had any use for it, but apparently if you cut it, it's like 30 feet of rope.
Yeah. See, for me, it's just like I am never going to be in a situation where I need it. And if I am camping, I don't want to waste it because I chose to go camping. I would feel like, now I'm going to go buy a new bracelet. Like, why didn't I just buy rope? How do these thermal blankets work?
I feel like one of those, like, unplanned things where it's like kind of a last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
But it also bears noting that I was a Boy Scout for a couple of years, so
hell yeah, I was a Boy Scout
some of this
too.
kind of came from that world. But yeah, man, I kind of was hoping there'd be something ridiculous still in here. But
Yeah.
I think I remember at one point I upped the size of the bag because like it just wasn't fitting in a backpack, and I think that bag ended up getting like, I'm not sure if I would have just thrown it away because it seems wasteful to throw out a perfectly good murder crowbar. But
Maybe it's like, I don't know, at your parents or something, just in storage. Or maybe they threw it away because they had the
this
common
was in
sense.
Missouri. This all happened in Missouri. So I'm not sure it ever even made it back to Illinois.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I guess now it's good to know what's all in that bag because it's been sitting in my closet. I'm terrible at getting rid of stuff. I just keep it for years.
Absolutely.
Every time I move, I just like, you hit that point in moving where you're so frustrated at actually looking at your belongings that you just either throw them away or put them into the van and get them out of there.
Yeah.
Like I don't take the time to ID and catalog stuff.
Sure.
And so it's like, oh, I'll figure out if I should throw this out next time I move.
Because it's easy. You're like, you get frustrated and you're like, grab all this shit. Like, I grab all this shit off my shelves and throw it in the trash, right? Because you have to take everything off a shelf. But then you find a backpack and you're like, I don't have time to go through the backpack right now. I'll do it later. So that's the type of shit that always stays with you. Like, anything you don't want on that shelf when you move is gone.
The top drawer of my dresser has stuff I swear to God, stuff from when I was like 11 or 12 years old. Because I've had the same dresser since I like moved out of my parents' place after college. And like I grabbed that and brought that to my first apartment in Chicago, and then I brought it here. And there's just stuff in it that I've just never gotten rid of.
Yeah.
And it's
you
like,
may never get rid of it.
Yeah, I may never. Well, it's like especially just running a show like We Still Like You and stuff where it's like having old embarrassing things can be useful. It's like I'm like, maybe there's a use for this yet. And so like I have so much stuff like that. But every time I move, I pare down at least a little bit of it.
Yeah.
If I could just stop always buying books. I have so many books.
Yeah, books are... They're unnecessary, but they feel good to own.
Right, yeah.
They do feel good
They're
to
my
own.
favorite like thing to have. Like I'm not big on, I don't know. I don't like gadgets. I don't like, there's not a bunch of like stuff like that I really get into, but I'm very into buying books.
It just feels, even if you read it once, you never pick it up again. And you also like, you have the like option to loan it out. It just feels nice.
Yeah,
to
I
have
love
that
like
option.
swapping books with friends. I don't know. I also just love the feeling of like finishing a book and being done with it, as opposed to like on a Kindle, you're like, all right, on to the next file. It's like the same, like the gratification of finishing a physical book is so much more than like finishing an article on a computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like that's what Kindles make it feel like. It's like, oh well, I'm done with that article. Like
I can see all the benefits of a Kindle. I don't want one.
Yeah,
like I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, like fuck technology, it's ruining the way. Like fuck that. If somebody can enjoy a book on a Kindle, that's awesome for them.
Yeah,
I just personally need to hold a book in my hand.
I think it's also my eyes start to hurt after like too long reading text that small on a screen.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Who knows, man?
Yeah. Well, so that was I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, I'm glad it was still where I thought it was.
That was a fun way to wrap things up because that was not expected. I honestly, so like I said, I thought that this was mostly going to be a conversation about germs. I thought you like became like a big germaphobe and like that's your main freak out. I didn't realize that like your main thing was
that's the crazy thing.
The
is
world
like,
falling apart.
I'm always just like, well, if I get my flu shot, on that front, I should be okay.
Sure.
And like, because it's so random getting sick, you know. Like I've never gotten sick. There's been like I guess a handful of times where I've been like, oh, I was out like drinking and I didn't wear like a good enough coat.
Yeah.
But there are very few times where I've gotten sick where I've been like, I was really, really cruising for it. Like,
or like when your friends will be like, no, I'm sick. Don't come over. You'll get sick. You never get sick.
Yeah.
And then you're just living life and suddenly you're sick and you're like, you can't pinpoint it. Like, where the fuck
Exactly.
did this come from?
So I think it's like one of those things that like I definitely don't want it to happen, but it never got me as much. I was actually more of a hypochondriac and a germaphobe when I was a kid, but I think it was just because I was like, I was always like a big, like, I like just learning weird facts when I was young. I would like go on Encarta and look up weird stuff. And when I was
no frame of reference, so now a huge portion of your knowledge is germs, and you're like, oh, they're everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd be 7 or 8, and I'd like stumble on something, and I'd click something else. Before you know it, I'd find the bubonic plague, and then you see a picture of a guy with like a big pustule, and like you're 8, you're not prepared to deal with that.
No.
So I would just be like, oh, okay, I guess the world is just a nightmare. But then like as I got older, that kind of went away, and I don't know, maybe this was like kind of in that same vein where I was like, barely out of being a teenager, and I was like, oh man, the world can be like crazy.
Absolutely.
And so I think seeing that and seeing like how it could really like, because before it's like you watch apocalyptic fiction, you're like, this is fake, this is a thing that I'm watching for fun.
Yeah.
But then you see something that's real and like researched, and it's like a almost kind of a warning, and you're like, whoa.
Watching the trailer, it looked really well done, and I was like, I don't think I want to watch this movie.
When you get a chance, check it out. It's a weird kind of scary. It's very interesting. I recommend it to anybody. I think it holds up.
Yeah,
because it definitely wasn't based in the times at all, and it was far enough into like the smartphone world that like technology hasn't changed enough to like nullify any of the processes they put in place.
And even if it did, like, what are you gonna do? Call someone and warn them like stop breathing? Like it's still fucking germs.
And it like does invoke
terrifying.
some stuff we've seen in our own like world. Like there's a part where they have all like the sick people in a stadium and stuff, and it's like that's basically what happened in like Katrina. It was like everyone was stuck in this stadium together. Yeah. And so it's like you
how does a disease not come from that? That many people just standing next to each other?
Well, that's the thing is then it does. It's like they have all these medical workers working on all these sick people,
constantly.
But they're all in this giant closed off space together, so of course then medical workers start getting sick, and then eventually it hits like that spooky point where the medical workers are like, fuck this, we're going home, like I've got kids and I'm not getting paid extra for being a hero, and so a lot of them just bail, and then
eventually it's
like,
not worth the paycheck, and it's
that's
like,
when everything unravels.
It's so people would like scoff at that, but it's like that's fucking fair. Like I would love to save people, but like at the same time sometimes you just gotta watch your fucking ass. Like
it's like, being a hero is all fine and good if you don't have 3 kids. Like
I don't know. It's really easy to pass judgment when you're not in someone's. I don't know. Now we're getting real philosophical about this. But Dan, thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
This went really well. I think I'm barely gonna have to edit anything out. Just basic stuff.
Yeah,
like
I didn't
Tyler
sneeze at all. I thought I was gonna sneeze for a second.
Yeah.
Didn't sneeze. I'm a hero.
It would have been fun to have you sounding very sick.
Yeah, I was gonna say
entire
like as we were getting further along, I was like, the idea of me being sick for this would be very funny. I love that there's just a mic stand here.
Yeah, that's oddly convenient.
Yeah, it worked out. Anything else we want to do?
No, I think that's it. Cool. So what do you So Dan, you are a co-producer of a extremely popular show in Chicago. Just hit your 2-year anniversary, right?
We did, yeah.
We Still Like You.
We're
it is a storytelling show where people specifically tell stories that should make them feel ashamed, and then the audience reassures them that we still like you. It's a pretty fun show. I brainstorm a lot trying to think of stories to tell.
Good shames.
I don't know. Things are either too dark or...
there's no such thing as too dark for that show.
There's no such thing as too dark for that show. There's such things as too dark for my personal comfort level and sharing.
I hear you there. There's some stuff I still won't do on that show just because, like, I don't know.
But anything that's not too dark, I immediately share with that. I am a very open book, so I'm like, I don't know that I can really think of anything. But one day I'll hit you up and try to... think of something worthy of your show, because every time I've been, it's been an extremely fun time.
Oh, well, thank you.
Good highs and lows with emotions, a lot of comedy, but also it gets pretty serious at some
it
points.
usually kind of hits all over the board. It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting show. So if you're ever in Chicago, be sure to check that out. Dan also is on Twitter, just at Dan Sheehan, right?
It's Dan Sheehan. Some guy in Britain took Dan Sheehan, so like it's like ITS and then Dan Sheehan.
Oh, it's Dan Sheehan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I thought when you, because I was like, at Dan Sheehan, you're like, it's Dan Sheehan. I thought you were saying No, it's Dan Sheehan.
It's
and
Dan
I'm like,
Sheehan is like
yeah,
the
I
three.
just said that.
I've realized that before when I try to give people my Twitter handle. I'm like, I created the Twitter version of Who's on First
right,
by accident.
exactly.
Like,
well, you got to say at it's Dan
Yeah,
Sheehan.
at it's Dan
That'll
Sheehan.
clear everything up. And also you are a real big fan of a Twitter called Not a Wolf.
I'm a huge fan of it.
It's you might say you're personally invested in this
I'm
Twitter.
very personally invested in it.
It's a man.
A friend of mine who is not a wolf.
No, he's not a wolf.
I can guarantee you he is not a wolf.
Yeah, and he wants to make sure that everyone believes he's not a wolf.
Because frankly, he is sick of wolves.
Yeah.
And that's his Twitter handle.
Who
At sick
isn't?
of wolves.
So be sure to check out at it's Dan Sheehan and at Not a Wolf on Twitter. Both very fun accounts. And other than that, thank you so much. I'm not going to shake your hand.
Yeah, that's fair. This is not a good time to shake my hand.
But I do
disease
appreciate
bomb.
you sharing with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Cool.